Hello, my name is Matthias, and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for Game Week 5. And if you don't know, this is a series that I do every single week where I try to do wildcard into what I think is the best squad to have in Fantasy Premier League going forward in the next few game weeks. And this game week 5, I don't think it's a particularly good game week to wildcard because Man City and Arsenal are playing each other and they both have pretty nice fixtures after that. So ideally, you'd wait for game week 6 at least, potentially game week 7 before you wildcard, and then try to double up or triple up on Arsenal especially, and then maybe also on Man City, depending on who presents themselves as good Man City options, because currently it might just be Haaland. Spoilers, that's the only City player here in this wildcard squad. But this is going to be made, or if you haven't seen this already, this is going to be sort of like a NFL or NBA style draft where the number one pick, the first player that I will present to you, is the player that I think is the most important player to have in FPL currently. And then the 15th player, the final member of my squad, the 15th pick, as it were, is going to be the player that I'm the least confident about having in my squad currently. So with that out of the way, let's go into the squad and let's see who's the number one pick. And this week, it's a new guy. It is Haaland. He's not really new as the number one pick because he was the number one pick most of last season. But for this season, I've had just slightly more faith in Salah. I didn't even have Haaland in my Game Week 2 weekly wildcard draft video, but both Game Week 1, 3, and 4, I've had Haaland in the squad, and now he's the number one pick because he's just unstoppable at the moment and scoring goals left, right, and center. Any which way, basically, he's fantastic. And yes, he has Arsenal straight away. Not the best fixture because Arsenal are really good, especially away from home. They'll be really good defensively. That's going to be tough for Haaland to score a brace or even a hat-trick. He'd be lucky to get one goal, I think, or like potentially could get one goal, but that would be the most you could expect from him, I guess. So it is kind of a tough week for Haaland. I don't think he's the best captaincy option, but I think long term he's going to be the best pick by far, especially once he's done with Arsenal. Newcastle away is kind of tricky, I guess, but after that, Man City have a lot of good fixtures in a row. So I think Haaland is just someone that you need now, and yeah, someone that you should have already, and that you can't really get rid of in the near future either, which is different from the number 2 pick, who's going to be Salah, who's been my number 1 pick for the past few game weeks. Had a bit of a disappointing game week against Nottingham Forest, didn't really show much in that game. Looked decent in the Champions League just now, right before I started recording, but he didn't get any goals or assists, I think. So yeah, Salah is not as hot as it was for the first 3 game weeks, but he's still really good. Has amazing fixtures, obviously. Bournemouth at home is a decent fixture. Wolves away is a really good fixture, and Crystal Palace away is also a pretty decent fixture as well, seeing how bad defensively Crystal Palace have been so far. Chelsea at home is also a pretty good fixture, but I think Salah is decent, especially for Game Week 5, potentially Game Week 6 also. After that, you could look into selling him for someone like Saka. I think that could be what's going to happen with my wildcard draft as well. But we'll see what happens in the next few game weeks. But Salah has been amazing so far. Yes, he didn't get any points against Nottingham Forest, but that was mainly down to Forest just being really good defensively and also not conceding early. If Forest had conceded early in that game, could have opened the floodgates for Salah and the rest of Liverpool's players. So yeah, just unlucky with that game, I guess, and faced a pretty good opponent in Nottingham Forest. So that's just what happens sometimes. But we saw Salah in Game Week 1, 2, 3, how good he was. He had 45 points, the same as Haaland before Game Week 4. So Salah is still an amazing player, and I expect him to get some points in the next few games as well. So I think he's pretty important player to have currently as well. I think doubling up with Haaland and Salah is still the way to go, but we're getting closer and closer to that point where Salah is not going to be as essential as he has been for the first few game weeks of the season. So yeah, we'll see what happens next week, but for now, Salah is still in the squad at number 2. And number 3, I still have Trent Alexander-Arnold. I still haven't really been scared off of Trent, even though he had his worst game of the season so far against Nottingham Forest, getting only 2 points obviously since they conceded and stuff. But he played 90 minutes. He played in midfield sometimes as well, so maybe that will help him, maybe that will hurt him. I'm not sure, but as a right back, at least for Liverpool so far this season, he's looked really threatening. Still no goals or assists. He did get an assist now in the Champions League, but he is someone that is looking really lively going forward. Even in the past game, he was one of the better ones in terms of expected goals and expected goal involvement in general in that game. So he's still looking like a really good pick, and I still think Liverpool will be keeping the clean sheet most of the time. They were kind of unlucky to concede against Nottingham Forest as well. Nottingham Forest didn't really create that many chances, but they did score that one chance that they needed to, and that was enough to give them the 3 points. But still have a lot of faith in Trent. He's also really expensive, so you can see already with Haaland, Salah, and Trent, we have used up a lot of money, so there's not going to be too much money left for the rest of the team. But I think these 3 players are still absolutely amazing picks currently, and I don't think there are any other standouts for like a high price personally. So that's why these 3 are like the main 3 guys to have in each part of the team as well. 1 guy from the attack, 1 guy from the midfield, and 1 guy from the defense, basically. Number 4, we have Brian Mbeumo, who's new from last time. He played Man City last game and blanked, which was kind of expected, I guess. But Brentford still looked really good in that game. But the downside for Brentford was the fact that Jan Wissa got injured. Really sad times for Wissa, especially, who's looked really good so far. But also bad for Brentford, who have been really good with Mbeumo and Wissa in the same team. But I still think Mbeumo is going to be fantastic. I don't think it's going to be hampered too much by Wissa going out, and they do have really good fixtures coming up. Even Spurs away now in this next upcoming fixture is a decent fixture for Mbeumo, so I think he's going to be a pretty important player to have currently in FPL, and that's why I've picked him as number 4, basically. On penalties, he's on some set pieces as well. He's the talisman for Brentford, who are looking really good so far this season. So yeah, Mbeumo is a really safe pick. I think he's going to be in the squad for quite a while. I don't foresee me selling him or like getting rid of him in the weekly wildcard draft for the foreseeable future. So I think he's a pretty important player as well, and that's why he's the number 4 pick. Number 5, we have Gabriel Magalhaes from Arsenal. He reminded us once again last game week how good he can be. Just dominated a corner, scored from a set piece from Saka, brilliantly delivered, brilliantly headed in from Gabriel. He's just a beast in the box, and we knew this already. He looks really nailed in the squad, and as you can see, Arsenal have some really good fixtures coming up after the Man City game. Even against Man City, we've seen Arsenal keep a clean sheet in the past. Last season, I think they got a 0-0 in that type of game, and Arsenal have shown to be pretty good and pretty tight defensively, especially in these bigger games. They seem to just lock in defensively as well. So yeah, it just seems like a really good time to have Arsenal defenders. Maybe not this week. Maybe you want to bench Gabriel for this game week. You could do that with the players that I have in this squad. You have the opportunity to bench him for this next upcoming game week if you don't have faith in him. But I think Gabriel is just amazing. He's shown that every single season he's played so far in the Premier League, and it seems like he's pretty much nailed for Arsenal as well, and that makes him an outstanding pick in my opinion. So that's why he's picked at number 5 in this draft. I just think he's amazing, and kind of regret not going with him from the start of the season. I went with Ben White instead, who had a really nice end to last season, but Gabriel just seems like an even better pick than Ben White for a cheaper price, I guess. So yeah, Gabriel comes in, especially after that header, reminding us all how good he is, how much of a goal threat he has on set pieces especially. So yeah, he comes in at number 5. Number 6, we have a pretty interesting new striker, I guess, in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You can see the fixtures there. That's the main thing for Calvert-Lewin and Everton, and he's also been really good offensively the last few games. Everton have scored 4 goals over the last 2 games, and Calvert-Lewin has been involved in most of them. He's also the penalty taker for Everton. And just the fixtures are really, really good, and he's shown a really good spurt of form this season, the likes of which he hasn't shown for like 3 or 4 seasons. He had that one really, really good season where he got like 15, 20-ish goals, and at that point he was a really good bargain in FPL, and it seems like this season he's also going to be a really good player. And I think Everton will sort of turn it around. It seems like they're onto something, at least offensively. So I think Calvert-Lewin could be a really good player going forward with the fixtures that they have. As you can see, Leicester away, fantastic fixture. Leicester just concede goals every game now. Crystal Palace at home. Palace have been really bad defensively this season. Newcastle at home is still a decent match. And then Ipswich away is also a fantastic match for Calvert-Lewin. So the next 4 matches are terrific, and I think this is the right time to jump on Calvert-Lewin, and I might buy him myself as well, as someone who has Rodrigo Muniz. It seems like a pretty good game week to go to someone like Calvert-Lewin in front, like right before a couple of really, really nice matches for Everton. So yeah, really like Calvert-Lewin as a pick, but usually when I pick him, he gets injured pretty quickly. That's the downside with Calvert-Lewin, but for now he is fit, so you could still pick him and hope for the best, and hope that he stays fit, and hope that he gets some penalties, and hope that he gets some goals and assists potentially, as he has shown to do the last few or the last 2 game weeks. So yeah, Calvert-Lewin comes in at number 6 for that reason. Number 7, we still have FPxeri. He was number 3 last time around, and he's dropped a little bit down in the rankings, and that's partly down to him playing against Leicester and not getting anything from that game, and also partly to him not being the penalty taker, or at least the main penalty taker for Crystal Palace. We had some comments from Oliver Glasner after the game, who said that Mateta and SA are basically sharing the responsibilities for the penalties, but it seems like SA is reluctant to take them in high pressure situations. And I think as long as Mateta keeps scoring them, I think he's going to keep taking penalties. So yeah, the factor that as it is not the main penalty taker for Palace, has dropped him down a little bit when it comes to his viability as a prospect, but I still think the next 2 matches against Man United at home and Everton away are really, really good. After that, with Liverpool at home and Nottingham Forest away, that seems like a pretty good jumping off point for me with Eze. 2 really tough matches there in terms of scoring goals, especially because Nottingham Forest have shown to be a better side than what we expected at the start of the season, especially City ground as well. I think it's going to be really tough for Palace in that game. So for the next 2 game weeks, I think Eze is fantastic. After that, you could sell him, you could downgrade him to someone cheaper, or potentially get some more money at that point if you have sold Salah. Personally, I'm looking at a Game Week 7 wildcard where I'm going to get rid of both Salah and Eze myself. But for now, for Game Week 5 and Game Week 6, I think Salah and Eze are really good picks. So you can still keep them for those 2 game weeks, especially. But yeah, Eze. The Everton match is basically last chance saloon for him, pretty much. So yeah, Eze comes in at number 7 for that reason. Number 8, we have João Pedro still. He is potentially out with the knock. That's the only thing. He wasn't in the squad last time around after going with Brazil on the international duties. He came back and he had a bit of an issue with his fitness. So still have to monitor that and make sure that he's okay to play. If he's not okay to play, I guess you could go to someone like Chris Wood, who has decent matches especially and has looked pretty good so far this season. You could go with someone cheaper as well in attack potentially as well. Liam Delap for Ipswich has been pretty good so far. He could also be an alternative, for example. So there are some other alternatives. Sadly, we don't have the Jan Vissar alternative, which was something that I did consider as well before he got injured, obviously. Or he would have been in the squad most likely if he didn't get injured, but that's what happened with him, sadly. And his replacement, Kevin Schade, is listed as midfielder, so you can't really buy him either. You could also go with Evan Nilsson, I guess, for not this upcoming game week against Liverpool, but in game weeks 6 and 7, he has pretty good fixtures. So if you're happy to bench him this week, then he could be a decent option if you want to go with someone a bit different. But I think for now, if João Pedro is fit to play, he's going to be a really good option. Nottingham Forest, as we saw last game week, they are pretty tough to beat, tough to score against. But Chelsea at the same time are, even though the colors don't really match what I'm saying right now, the Chelsea game might be easier for João Pedro to score in rather than the Nottingham Forest game. So even if he is out this next game, not the biggest of deals, I think he is most likely going to be the penalty taker still for Brighton. And once he's back fully fit, I think he's just tremendous value at his price, even though he's gone up in price to 5.7 right now. But yeah, I still think he's a good pick, but the injury issues is making me slightly questionable when it comes to João Pedro. But especially if he's fit to play, he's going to be really, really good. And I think he's going to be fit at least for Game Week 6 onwards. So yeah, I think he looks like a pretty good pick currently. Number 9, we have Alex Moreno in defense. I just talked about how good Nottingham Forest looked defensively, and I think Alex Moreno had a pretty good, impressive performance against Liverpool as well. Against Salah, he pretty much held Salah away from getting money chances and stuff. Salah had one decent chance where he kind of dribbled past Moreno, but apart from that, Moreno looked really good defensively, and we know what he can do offensively, how gifted he is attacking wise. And yeah, for 4.4 million, I think that's a really, really good price considering the fixtures that he has. Brighton away is not the easiest, but it's still a decent match. Fulham at home seems like a really good match in terms of clean sheets. Chelsea away, maybe not so much. Maybe that's when you bench him. And Crystal Palace at home, I think is also a pretty good match for him. Alex Moreno and the Nottingham Forest defense. So yeah, pretty attacking fullback for 4.4 million there in Alex Moreno. I have been really impressed with him in the past when he played for Aston Villa. That first season when he came in January, he had a really good end to the season there. So I think he could spur on and do the same type of thing for Nottingham Forest. You could also go with Olaina, who's the same price at right back. He has also looked pretty good and might be better for bonus points. It's a bit difficult to say who's the better out of the two, but I think Moreno has shown more offensive prowess in the past, so that's why I've picked him. And he's the number 9 pick for that reason. I think he has decent matches and he plays for a really good defense, and he is shown to be a pretty good attacking player as well. Number 10, we have still Morgan Rogers. We're still waiting for those FPL points. He has blanked every single game week so far, but he's looked really, really good. Even in the Champions League, he blanked again and once again looked amazing. He has the ball close to the box all the time. He plays really, really well. He's been Aston Villa's best player this season, in my opinion. But just the goals and assists just haven't really been there. But it has to come at some point, and Aston Villa still have really, really good matches, and I think he is basically the best Villa asset as well because he's really cheap, 5.0 still. The matches are really, really good, obviously, and in terms of Aston Villa, he seems to be playing every single minute for them, and he is really, really involved, and I'm just waiting for that massive performance that has to come at some point, I imagine. Wolves at home, Ipswich away, just fantastic fixtures. You might make the case for more Aston Villa players than him in the squad as well. Maybe I should have included that, but yeah, I think Rodgers is still a really good pick, and he's also someone that you could bench, seeing as we are going to have 8 decent attackers in this team. He is someone that you can bench as well when the time comes for that. But for this game week against Wolves at home, I think you could easily start him, especially seeing as who's the final midfielder, because he's the one that we need to bench this upcoming game week. But yeah, I think he's still due for some goals and assists. He's looked terrific so far, and I'm going to celebrate that first goal pretty intensely, I think, because I've been waiting a long time for Rodgers to get some points for me at least. But yeah, hopefully that will happen this next game week, but we'll see what happens. Number 11, I did say I have another midfielder that has a tough fixture this week. Liverpool away for Semenyo. That's perfect for him to be benched. That's going to be a problem if João Pedro is still out, but like I said, you have some other alternatives for João Pedro. But Semenyo, looking at those fixtures against Southampton home and Leicester away in game week 6 and 7, those are looking really, really good. And that's why I have Semenyo in the squad. But he is the number 11 pick because I am sort of losing a bit faith in him. He is playing more out wide than he did the first 2 game weeks. He's been kind of more defensive and more wide the longer the season has gone so far. But he did score points in all the 3 first game weeks of the season. So I still think he's a good asset. He's not a penalty taker or anything like that, but he is pretty much involved in everything Bournemouth do, and he also plays or anything Bournemouth does, and then he's also a really good player in general. Just looks the part basically on the pitch, kind of the same as Rodgers, except the fact that Semenyo has actually provided some points so far this season. I'll get to more alternatives as well at the end of the video, but yeah, for now, Semenyo I think is the best 5th midfielder to have in the squad. Number 12, we have Bart Verbruggen in goal for Brighton, which is basically the same thing as I had last week, and he did keep a clean sheet last time around against Ipswich, so he proved his worth already. Plays against Nottingham Forest at home next game, which is a decent game for him. Then he has some tougher fixtures, but we'll get to that eventually with the backup goalkeeper like we did last week as well. We have a goalkeeper to cover those game weeks pretty nicely. So yeah, I think Verbruggen is my favorite goalkeeper currently for 4.5. You could make a case for Matt Sells as well from Nottingham Forest. Like I just mentioned with Nottingham Forest, they are pretty good defensively. But I just really like Verbruggen. I think he's a decent goalkeeper in general. And yeah, I like Brighton as a team. They have been really solid defensively so far this season as well, more so than the last few seasons. So yeah, I just have a lot of faith in Verbruggen and Brighton defense. So I think he's the best goalkeeper option currently, but there are some other options that we're going to talk about as well at the end of the video. But yeah, let's move on to number 13, which is going to be Anthony Robinson once again. Drop down again a little bit more in the rankings. You can see the fixtures are sort of starting to dry up now, but I was really impressed by Fulham defensively against West Ham last time around. Joachim Andersen is a huge plus to their defense, and I think Sander Berge as well. Once he starts playing regularly in midfield, he's going to be another huge plus for their defensive prowess. And Robinson so far has been really attacking. He has 2 assists already, and Fulham have been so close to clean sheets, but they just haven't gotten it over the line the last few game weeks. But I think Robinson could get those in, especially in the next 2 game weeks. After that, maybe not so much, but I still have a lot of faith in Robinson. I still think he's one of the better 4.5-ish mid or defenders, both in terms of attacking potential and also clean sheet potential, hopefully eventually for Fulham. So yeah, he comes in at number 13. Number 14, we have Jacob Greaves once again in the squad from Ipswich. I think the fixtures are still decent, especially now against Southampton away. You could choose to play him over Gabriel if you want to do so. You also have a decision there between Alex Moreno, Brighton away, or Robinson against Newcastle at home. I probably would go with Robinson against Newcastle at home in that instance. But yeah. Greaves, when it comes to him, he is just a cheap 4.0 guy playing for really playing as a 4.0 defender. Basically, he's just really cheap, playing really good matches or decent matches at least for Ipswich, and I think he's the best 4.0 option pretty much, so that's why he's the number 14th pick. And the 15th pick is once again Mark Flekken from Brentford. He just rotates really well with Verbruggen, and I just have a lot of faith in that partnership. I think Flekken has looked good so far this season as well, looking like a better goalkeeper than it was in his first season in the Premier League. I think that's the case for both Verbruggen and Flekken. I think they're both going to be really, really good this season. So yeah, I kind of like that goalkeeper pairing basically for FPL, and that's why I picked them. But I don't know, you could downgrade Flekken to a 4.0 defender and have some, or 4.0 goalkeeper and have more viability or more options in terms of money for the rest of the team. There are some slight rumors that Sean Dyche might drop Jordan Pickford, for example, so I'll draw Virginia for 4.0 would be a decent backup goalkeeper if you want to go with someone cheaper, but currently I think Flekken for Verbruggen is just a really nice combo. You could also go with someone like David Raya, for example, who's been really good for Arsenal so far, but I think I just want to save that Arsenal spot potentially for an attacker, but also potentially also for a defender if I want to go with Ben White or someone like that instead. There's just something about going with a goalkeeper from Arsenal that I don't really like. But Raya has been fantastic so far, gotten bonus points in 3 out of 4 games, more bonus points than any defender. He's played terrifically for Arsenal, and Arsenal are keeping a lot of clean sheets, so he is a really good option as well. But yeah, I've talked a bit about a couple of goalkeepers now, but I'm going to talk more about some other players that I have considered for this team. You can see at the bottom right there, it says on the cusp. That's going to be filled out with 3 names that I have considered quite a lot for this wildcard draft, but I ended up not including them. You can also see a couple of players missing in the list from the last draft that I did in Game Week 4. And those are the 4 players that have dropped out since last time. You can see Gabriel, Alex Moreno, Mbeumo, and Calvert-Lewin are marked in green, which means that they are new players from last game week, or from the draft from last game week. And those 4 players coming in means that 4 players have dropped out. So let's go through those guys before I talk about the options that I have considered as well. So first, let's go through the options, and Rico Lewis has dropped out just because he was subbed off at the half for City. I just don't have faith in him as much anymore, playing as regularly as we need him to, basically. He's still a terrific option, I think. If you have him, like I do in my own team, I would probably keep him, but on a wildcard, when you can swap out your whole team and get more secure players, I would just pick someone else. So yeah, Lewis drops out for that reason. I still think he's a good pick. If he plays, he's going to be super attacking. He might even get these 45-minute cameos, but even then, he is super attacking and could get you some goals and assists potentially. So I still think he's a good option. I think both him and Guardiola are decent options, but we just don't know yet how City are going to do in terms of the rotations and stuff defensively, especially. So yeah, Lewis just drops out for that reason. I still think he's a good pick to hold, but I don't think he's someone that I would buy currently just because we can't really be sure about his playing time going forward. Jared Bowen has dropped out in midfield, and Mbeumo has replaced him. I think Mbeumo now has better fixtures. Bowen did get 5 points last game week, and Mbeumo got 2. I thought it would be even more, so that's why I had Bowen last week rather than Mbeumo, but I think Mbeumo now is just one of the main guys to get, and that means that Bowen has to drop out. I did consider Bowen rather than SA. That is something you have to weigh up as well, because they are pretty close in terms of price. Bowen is slightly more expensive. I still think Bowen is great for what it's worth. You could also go with someone like Kudus as well from West Ham. I think they have okay fixtures, but I think I landed on SA as more of a short-term good player for Man United at home and Everton away than the West Ham options, basically. But yeah, Bowen is still a great option. João Pedro sadly has to drop out because of injuries. I was really looking forward to bring him into my team myself, and yeah, it's just a huge shame that he's going to be out for 2 months now after the injury that he suffered against Man City, but that's just what happens sometimes in FPL. But Wissa is a really good player, and I wish him the best in the future, but obviously he can't be in the team now that he's injured. Andrew Robertson as well, someone that I have dropped. Liverpool they still have a decent fixtures, as you can see. Bournemouth at home, Wolves away, Crystal Palace away, Chelsea at home. I still think he's a decent option, but he's also a bit too expensive for basically I have replaced him with Gabriel Magalhaes, who is the same price and has better fixtures, plays for a better defense, and has also had more points so far in terms of goals and assists, because Robertson hasn't had anything in terms of goals and assists, and Gabriel got his goal last game week. So yeah, I just prefer Gabriel currently, now that Gabriel has finished one of his tougher matches against Spurs and got 15 points in the meantime as well in that game. So Gabriel replaces Robertson, and that's the final player that has dropped out since last time. Then on the cusp, I have Bowen, who I just mentioned again. I did consider him rather than SA, especially. He is someone that you could still have in your team. I just like him as a differential, and I think he has the opportunity to score and assist and stuff, but I still think West Ham are lacking a little bit. They were kind of not so impressive against Fulham. I expected more offensively from West Ham in that game. Didn't really show much. Bowen did get an assist in the end, but yeah, I'm just slightly too cold on West Ham currently offensively to go with Bowen rather than SA, but I think it's something that you could definitely consider. Then we have Jean-Philippe Mateta as well, who I did consider. You could do the swap of having McNeil in midfield rather than SA and having Mateta in attack rather than Calvert-Lewin. You could do that swap. I think it's basically the same price as well. So you do get the same amount of penalty takers, I guess. You just get Mateta, who's the penalty taker for Palace, and then you lose the Everton penalty taker, but you also swap from the set piece taker for Palace, which is Eze, to the set piece taker for Everton, which is McNeil. So you sort of have the same set pieces and penalties, but I think Mateta is just a better striker than Calvert-Lewin, so maybe that's better if you prefer that. But I also think Eze is so much better than McNeil, so I think I just prefer Eze and Calvert-Lewin. But Mateta is someone that I am really intrigued by. He is still pretty expensive, 7.4, but on penalties has been really, really good, in great form. Basically the last, since New Year's, basically, since Glasner took over for Palace, he's been terrific. So I think there are, you should consider him as someone you can have up front, because I don't think there are that many good strikers currently. Could go with someone like Watkins. He hasn't been listed so far this game week. He got 13 points as well, just like Mateta last game week. And he has had a lot of big chances this season. It's just still that factor of him being subbed off around 60 minutes to make sure John Duran gets 30 minutes. And we've seen how good John Duran is, especially now with the Champions League as well. Watkins played 60 minutes there. He was subbed off and got some ice packs on his ankle and stuff. So he is a bit banged up, but I think he's going to play for what it's worth in the next game week. But yeah, I just think the rotation there is just too much of a detriment to me. I'd rather have someone like Calvert-Lewin who plays 90 minutes, or someone like Mateta who plays 90 minutes most likely, rather than Watkins, who seems to still be subbed off pretty early in most games. But Digne is another Aston Villa player that I have considered. Again, it's down to rotation thing. He played in the Champions League, and he might get rotated in the league, seeing as Ian Matson has been brought in for such a huge sum of money. But Digne has looked really good, and he did have an assist last game for Watkins. But Aston Villa will also just seem to concede every single game. They haven't really had the best defense in terms of keeping clean sheets the past few years. So that just makes me too uneasy to pick Digne, even though he's looking really attacking, plays for a good team, is 4.5, and has really good fixtures, as you can see from the fixtures from Rodgers there. Digne is a really good pick, but I just can't really convince myself to buy him, or advise you guys to buy him. And you also know how big of an FPL troll he is. If he becomes a popular FPL pick, you know he's going to get minus 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, 0 points, that type of stuff. So yeah, he was in consideration, but he didn't quite make it, and that is the final player that was on the cusp, basically. There are probably some other options as well, but yeah, when I picked this wildcard team, I wasn't too impressed by any of the picks, honestly. Like, I felt like some of these picks are like iffy. Even Salah, who's the number 2 pick, I know that I would probably sell him in game week 7 or 8, potentially even game week 6 for Saka. So yeah, I'm not too convinced about wildcard in this week. But if you're on the wildcard, if your team is just in complete shambles for some reason, or if you in a rage just push the wildcard button and you are on a wildcard now for some reason, I think this is the team to pick currently. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I hope you subscribe to the channel as well. We're getting closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers. Should be really nice to get. And yeah, as always, if you have any comments, comment down below. If you have any players that I haven't mentioned in this video and you want to hear my thoughts about them, please let me know in the comments, and I will respond to pretty much every single comment. That's usually what I do on this channel. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, like I said, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.